The movie has a gripping narrative that centers around Amanda, a woman increasingly overwhelmed by the unrelenting pressures and routines of her daily life. Motivated by this deep-seated desire for change, Amanda is struck by a sudden, compelling idea: a spontaneous family vacation, a chance to step away from the familiar patterns of their lives. Amanda enthusiastically brings this idea to her husband, Clay, a university professor. Clay is initially taken aback by Amanda's proposal, surprised not only by its suddenness, but also by the meticulousness with which Amanda has planned it. She has carefully arranged every aspect of their trip. Her thorough preparation and evident enthusiasm make it challenging for Clay to express any reservations about the suddenness of the trip. As the family sets out on their unanticipated vacation, there is a palpable sense of excitement. This seemingly simple decision to break from their routine becomes a catalyst for a chain of events that will have profound and lasting effects on their lives. Their destination is a rented house in Long Island, a locale that promises relaxation and a break from the bustle of their regular environment. Accompanying Amanda and Clay are their children, Rose and Archie, who represent typical sibling dynamics with their occasional disagreements and preoccupation with their electronic devices. The family's adventure begins as they settle into the luxurious mansion they have rented for their vacation. Amidst exploring, Clay's curiosity leads him to a shelf that seems intriguing. As he moves to open it, Amanda intervenes, firmly insisting that it's off-limits, creating an air of mystery and unspoken rules even within their temporary home. Later, Amanda heads out to purchase groceries. In the store, her attention is drawn to a man who is stocking up on water and basic supplies. His actions strike her as unusual and somewhat unsettling, hinting at an underlying tension or foreboding that she can't quite put her finger on. Soon after, the serene atmosphere of their getaway begins to show signs of strangeness. The family's day at the beach is marked by an unexpected discovery. Their cell phones have no service, cutting them off from the outside world. Rose, one of the children, notices an oil tanker in the distance. Her observation is initially dismissed by the others, but as the tanker seems to move closer over time, a sense of unease begins to grow among the family. This feeling of disquiet escalates rapidly. Amanda, increasingly alarmed by the unfolding events, wakes Clay in a state of panic. They make a hasty decision to pack up and leave, driven by a growing sense of dread. However, their plans to depart are abruptly stopped when the boat they had noticed earlier washes ashore, a startling development that heightens their alarm. Upon returning to the rented mansion, they face yet another unsettling discovery. Both the television and Wi-Fi are non-functional. This sudden cutoff from all forms of digital connectivity deepens the family's sense of isolation and anxiety. The disconnection from the outside world and the unusual occurrences around them begin to create an atmosphere of suspense and foreboding, suggesting that their vacation is turning into something far more complex and disturbing than they had ever anticipated. As the night falls, the already tense atmosphere at the rented mansion intensifies with the unexpected arrival of George and his daughter, Ruth. Amanda and Clay are caught off guard by this sudden intrusion. Amanda, in particular, is highly suspicious of their unannounced appearance, unsure of their intentions and the legitimacy of their claim. George, attempting to dispel their doubts, explains that he is the owner of the house and the person with whom Amanda had been corresponding for the rental arrangements. Despite his efforts, he finds it challenging to earn the trust of Amanda and Clay. After a period of careful consideration, Clay decides to let them in. George then reveals the reason for their unexpected visit, a widespread blackout in the city, which prompted them to seek refuge in their Long Island property. Amanda's skepticism persists. Even after George's explanation, she tries to reach out to the rental company for confirmation and is further taken aback when George offers a 50% refund for the inconvenience caused by their presence. This gesture of compensation does little to alleviate her concerns about the situation. George asserts that he and Ruth will stay in the basement, emphasizing their right to be in their own home. Ruth, supporting her father's claim, confidently reminds Amanda and her family that they are merely guests in the house. Later, Amanda and Clay have a private conversation to discuss the unfolding events. Amanda conveys her unease about the situation, but Clay presents a practical viewpoint. He suggests that given the city's blackout and the uncertainty surrounding it, staying in the house could be the safest option for their family. He eventually convinces Amanda to allow George and Ruth to spend the night. Meanwhile, in the basement, George and Ruth make themselves comfortable. As Ruth turns on the TV, they are suddenly confronted with news reports of a national emergency. This startling revelation adds another layer to the mystery and uncertainty enveloping the blackout and the peculiar events they have been encountering. The following morning, Amanda wakes to find her phone flooded with emails alluding to the widespread power outage, hinting at the possibility of hackers being responsible for the blackout along the United States coast. However, as she rouses Clay to discuss these alarming developments, they are both puzzled to find that the emails have vanished without a trace. This mysterious occurrence adds to the growing unease and confusion. In the midst of this unsettling atmosphere, Rose, frustrated with the malfunctioning TV, steps outside for a change of scenery. There, she encounters a herd of deer, an unusual sight that further punctuates the odd and inexplicable events unfolding around them. Meanwhile, driven by a desire to understand what is happening, Clay decides to venture into town in search of answers. Back at the house, Amanda engages in a conversation with Ruth. When George joins them, Amanda recounts the odd incident of the mysterious emails and their sudden disappearance. The discussion takes on a more worrisome tone when they consider that Ruth's mother is scheduled to return to Long Island by plane that morning. Given the current uncertain and potentially dangerous conditions, their inability to contact her and warn her against flying adds to their anxiety. In search of more information, George heads over to his neighbor's house. Concurrently, Clay's drive into town is marked by disarray and confusion, as he finds the radio stations producing nothing but scrambled and unintelligible noises. When George arrives at his neighbor's house, he is met with a distressing sight. The house is completely destroyed, exacerbating the growing sense of fear and apprehension. Elsewhere, Rose recounts her unusual morning experience to Archie, who seems more captivated by photographing Ruth lounging by the pool than engaging with Rose's story. Driven by curiosity and a desire to explore further, Rose decides to venture into the woods, with Archie hesitantly following behind her. Clay's journey into town takes a concerning turn when he encounters a Spanish-speaking woman in a state of distress. Unable to comprehend her and overwhelmed by his own confusion and helplessness, Clay makes the difficult decision to leave the woman behind and continue on his way. Meanwhile, George's quest for understanding leads him to a grim discovery in his neighbor's backyard, multiple bodies lying on the ground. This horrifying sight suggests that the crisis they are facing is far more severe than they had imagined, hinting at a widespread catastrophe of unknown origins and implications. The family's search for answers and understanding becomes increasingly desperate. The tension continues to escalate as Archie and Rose venture into a foreboding area, their initial sense of adventure quickly giving way to apprehension and fear. Their exploratory excursion turns threatening, reflecting the unsettling atmosphere that has enveloped their vacation. Meanwhile, Clay's own experiences take a bizarre turn when he encounters a drone distributing brochures. Despite his attempts to avoid it, the drone persistently follows him, ultimately catching up and leaving him visibly disturbed by the encounter. George's situation also becomes increasingly dire. In a series of alarming developments, he not only witnesses the devastating aftermath of plane crashes into the ocean, but also experiences the horror of seeing a plane crash directly onto the beach. Panicked and fearing for his safety, George runs to find refuge, his initial quest for answers now overshadowed by the immediate threat to his life. The suspense intensifies as Archie and Rose discover a nearby shed. During their exploration, Archie suffers a bite from an insect, further adding to the sense of danger and discomfort. While exploring, Rose catches sight of a deer again, but Archie, preoccupied and apprehensive, fails to notice. When the deer flees, Rose spots a house in the distance and expresses curiosity about it. However, Archie, sensing the potential risks of venturing further, insists they return to their rental home. When George returns from his exploration, he brings with him disturbing news. He shares with Amanda his chilling observations and speculates about a possible cause of the widespread communication blackout, suggesting a satellite malfunction. He also recounts the traumatic sight of witnessing a plane crash into the ocean, heightening the group's fear and sense of urgency. As the night falls, distant explosions can be heard, adding to the group's alarm. Amanda, suddenly recalling that her children are in the woods, rushes out in a state of panic to find them. At the same time, Archie and Rose are startled by a shrill, piercing noise that forces them to cover their ears in agony. Upon reuniting with her children, Amanda returns to the house, her anxiety and distress manifesting in increasingly erratic and agitated behavior. George tries to maintain a sense of calm, emphasizing the need to wait for Clay's return in hopes he will bring back more information. However, tensions rise as Ruth confronts Amanda, leading to a heated argument that George intervenes in to prevent further escalation. Amanda later confides in Clay about a man she saw at the supermarket stocking up on supplies, seemingly in anticipation of a crisis. George acknowledges that he knows the man Amanda is referring to. Eventually, Clay returns, but he brings little new information. He explains his disorientation and how he managed to find his way back, showing the group a leaflet he received from the drone. It's written in Arabic, and Archie translates it as "Death to America," instilling further fear and uncertainty among them. This alarming discovery prompts the group to make the drastic decision to drive to the city, despite the unknown risks that await them. George tries to discourage them, aware of the potential dangers, but his daughter Ruth insists on letting them go. Driven by desperation to connect with others and seek answers, Amanda and her family leave George's property. Amanda clings to the hope of finding traffic on the highway, where they might interact with others and gather more information. However, their journey becomes increasingly dangerous as they encounter a highway in complete chaos, with self-driving cars crashing into one another in a scene of utter disarray and confusion. The family's quest for understanding and safety becomes increasingly filled with danger and uncertainty, as the world around them seems to spiral into chaos. In the intense and unsettling world, Amanda quickly realizes the seriousness of the situation they find themselves in. In a moment of decisiveness, she urges Clay to get back into the car, and she takes control of the wheel, attempting to navigate through the chaos. However, their attempt to escape to the city proves unsuccessful. To their surprise, George opens his door to find Amanda and her family back on his doorstep, having returned from their unsuccessful venture. That evening, a moment of emotional connection unfolds between George and Amanda. George hints at the possibility of a government conspiracy being the root cause of the bizarre events unfolding around them. Despite the tense atmosphere, they share a dance, finding solace in each other's company. This moment brings them closer emotionally, yet both carefully maintain the boundaries of their respective marriages. Later, in a more private setting, George opens up to Amanda about missing his wife, showing a side of vulnerability and human emotion. Meanwhile, a different interaction takes place between Ruth and Clay. Ruth, in a bold and unexpected move, asks Clay to vape with her. She then poses provocative questions about his relationships with his students, leaving Clay speechless and visibly uncomfortable. The unsettling events take a turn for the worse when the creepy noise that has been haunting the family returns, plunging the house into darkness as the lights go out. Down in the basement, a tense and revealing conversation unfolds between Ruth and George. Ruth accuses Clay of making inappropriate advances toward her and questions George's decision to let Amanda's family stay with them again. The following day brings more distressing developments. Amanda and her family wake to the alarming realization that Rose has disappeared. In addition, Archie begins to exhibit a bizarre and troubling symptom. His teeth start falling out. This strange occurrence adds to the growing sense of panic and fear within the family. In their search for help, George suggests turning to Danny, the man Amanda had seen stockpiling supplies at the supermarket. Trusting George's judgment, they bring Archie to Danny in hopes of finding medication for his condition. At Danny's, they encounter a tense standoff, but Danny eventually agrees to help in exchange for payment, highlighting the desperation and opportunism that have emerged in these chaotic times. In a candid moment while in the car, George shares his insights with Clay about the crisis. He expresses his belief that a political coup d'etat is taking place, suggesting that those in power are deliberately inciting a civil war by manipulating technology and spreading misinformation. This adds a new layer of conspiracy and intrigue to the unfolding narrative. In a separate incident, Amanda, while searching for Rose, manages to save Ruth from a dangerous encounter with a herd of deer. This frightening episode is quickly followed by a horrifying sight. They witness New York City being bombed, confirming the severity of the crisis and the reality of the war they are facing. The plot takes a surprising turn when it's revealed that Rose has found refuge in a neighboring house, which is equipped with a doomsday bunker. This bunker, fully stocked with supplies and survival equipment, includes an emergency alert system interceptor. The interceptor broadcasts a chilling message: the United States is under attack and at war. The movie concludes on this threatening and uncertain note, leaving us in suspense about the fate of the characters and the broader implications of the war and chaos that has engulfed them. Did this story spook you out? Let us know in the comments below. For more horror movie recaps, subscribe to our channel, and we will see you in the next one. Fear awaits you.